We are live here at the open of the US session. It is December 3rd. It's a Thursday. You're here with me on FX Streets. And my name is Andrew Hahn. And this is the Trade with UFOs Nailing FX US session with me. And as you can see here, scrolling along here is if you're interested in signing up for our free membership, just go to www.tradewithufos.com/Andrew and sign up for our free newsletter and a lot of other information on what we have to offer at Trade with UFOs, as well as we do have outside of this this time on FX Street our YouTube sessions, which I'll show you in a minute. But before we do get started, just read these disclaimers as it's going through. Okay. And we will move on. So these are the sessions that we have this month in, it's not November anymore, it should be December. I apologize for that. And we have on FX Street my session today at 2:30, and then that's GMT time, and then on the 17th, so in a couple of weeks, I'll be back. But other than that, you can find me next week on our YouTube channel. We do have Opa on Wednesdays, so he kind of switched his time around, and Pedro on Tuesdays, and then we also have Ronaldo on Fridays. So come and join us, whether it be on FX Street or on YouTube. You can find our calendar here by clicking tradewithufos.com/live. All right. So what's kind of coming up for the remainder of the week is non-farm payroll. So while there's been some activity and moves today, especially in the pound, we do have some other news coming up. In particular, the NFP every first Friday of the beginning of every month. So we'll see if there is just some positioning going on today, and when we take a look at these markets, we'll kind of basically ask this question, whether it be for the Aussie, the Euro, or the pound, are we kind of at the peak? I mean, we've been having some nice moves in these markets. Is it a bit of the dollar weakness kind of coming into there, but also some real initiatives, I think, on the European and the pound side that have been pushing price up. And then, we really do have some sort of risk appetite, as we've seen with the equities, but not so much reflected in not so much really in the yen. Which has kind of been ranging. And then, of course, we've had the CAD, which we have seen stronger, so inverse to the US dollar CAD. And that's kind of a reflection also some of the oil moves that we've been seeing. So generally the climate is what we've been seeing there, but we'll get more into the charts coming up shortly, and really just a quick look at the dollar. Now it's dollar's kind of broken that prior low there at 91.70, and has been moving 100 pips lower. So now we're at 90.60, and where is the end in sight? So where is there going to be some support coming in? But obviously there has been some push to the downside, and so not good for the dollar. But then that trend, as we kind of can see here with the 21 daily moving average as well as the 21 week moving average, things have been pointing lower. So so until we get I guess a little bit more moves to back towards that average, we're going to see the average continue lower, at least for the foreseeable future. All right, so yeah, so let's kind of jump into the charts then, and let me just pop this off here, and let's just come down here. And so as we've been talking about the dollar, where do we see bottom? And so if we kind of check the UFOs on the daily here, we can see that it's highlighting, identifying this, 89.77 sort of area. I've kind of rounded it down to 89.75. And if we look to get in on any sort of retracement, at least on the daily, that's kind of pointing us towards this 91.50 sort of area. But as we can see currently, we are pushing, continue to push down to lower. So not much in the way of dollar moving down to that, towards this 89.75 area. So it's just kind of one thing that we kind of, we just have to accept, right? That that the support's probably not going to come in for a bit longer. Now, are we going to see maybe a little bit of a retracement, over the next, couple of weeks, or maybe midweek, are we going to reach this area? I guess we'll see. But clearly there's some weakness that's continuing on in the dollar that we've seen ever since November here. So we'll see how that kind of pans out. But clearly, if we kind of look at let me just turn these UFOs off first. As we see here with the Aussie, it's kind of pushed past prior high. The moving average on the daily side continues to point higher. New Zealand has been, super strong over really the last, the last month, continues to be that. And now the euro is kind of following suit. So all the markets are kind of pointing upwards. The pound kind of hesitated a little bit. It's but we had some strength come in today. And then on the inverse to the dollar, we've got the dollar CAD. So again, CAD's been pretty strong there. The Swiss has also been pretty strong the last 3 days. A bit of an engulfing candle there on the daily. But then the yen, as I kind of mentioned before, it's kind of ranging. So there's not as clear of a move, as a trend, versus compared to the other dollar-based pairs. So it's just something that we just need to note, and the question there is, how does that kind of factor into the, to some of the flows back into yen from from the dollar side, as well as some of the other pairs, So a bit of a, so the question is there an overall strength in the yen, coming in, but and so is that a reflection of the equities, so we'll see. I mean, the equities have been holding up pretty well. If you kind of look at the let's say the SPX, the index, it's been pretty strong, right? So we don't see any weakness there. But is the yen maybe indicating to us a little bit that some sort of move into potentially into the equities, right? And so if we just look at Aussie yen in that sort of sense, we do see that there is that there's been that sort of move, but now it's starting to pause, right? So if I just flick on the auto UFOs, it is pointing to the potential of kind of regaining those prior highs at 78.30, right, around this area. And if we just want to, let me just highlight that on the daily. Okay. There is some, potential for maybe a bit of a pause, right? A bit of a pause in the, if I just put that like that, 78.25, maybe a bit of a pause, maybe get a little bit of a pullback before trying to attempt retesting that high, for the remainder of the year. But we'll see. We'll see. So let's see, what else do we have here? So if we also look at where some support is, kind of have this green UFO down the bottom here. That's closer down to 74 on the Aussie yen. And we can kind of round that out just so it's easier to kind of view those numbers. That's where we would expect some interest in for the buyers to kind of come in, but that's quite a bit of a distance away. So again, if we look at where price is relative to the 21 day moving average, it's clearly still a buy, and so if I just look at the auto climate, it is also confirming, right, that we're in this sort of upward bias sort of mode. But if we just look at some of these statistics, though, and okay, let me just get rid of this stochastic for a little bit. As you can see here on the statistics, right, the the upward moves tend to be about 5.6 days in this case, right? And so let me just turn off these bookmarks here so you can get a little bit more room here. So the fact that we've had this upward sort of move for about 8 days, right, kind of tells me that okay, we're probably a little bit long in tooth on this one, and so probably could expect a little bit of pullback before we continue higher, right? So as we kind of look at the the bigger picture, the bigger context of what's going on, it does kind of help to set our expectations, right, for either continuation of this move higher, and for how much longer, right? Can we expect it to go, for another couple of weeks? Yeah, that's entirely possible, right? But for the moment, we just have to look for opportunities to continue to go long. Okay. So let me just remove this area just so it's not confusing. So where would we, potentially, try and join this continued upward move, right? So this is where we can go down to the lower time frame, let's say the hourly. And we can see here is kind of the UFO showing up here. So we've kind of been rolling off a little bit, and so we could use the UFOs here to look for an opportunity down at 77.05, say. So we can mark that out. Okay. All right, so since we're still in a overall upward bias, look to get in here. Okay, and then our risk would be, put our stop down the bottom here. Okay, so let's call it about 80, right? Let's get a bit of room. And so if we wanted to price this out, we can say we want to buy Aussie yen at 77.05 with our stop down at say 76.80. And so that'd be a 25 pip risk there. And let's say we just want to do a 1-to-1. Okay, plug that in there. And you can risk how much you want, right? I mean, so let's say your risk is $100, right? So then your position size is going to be 41,723. But if we just round that out to 40,000, so that's a 0.4 in the empty sort of world, then we're risking 95.87 for a 1-to-1. Okay, so you can plop that on there. But of course, if you're looking for a 2-to-1, that's also an option there, right? But as you can kind of see here, right, the UFOs are also telling us that as we go to these let me get back to the hourly here, right? There is some resistance here, right? So we just have to take note of that on this time frame, right? If we're looking to go long here, doing that 1-to-1 is a fine expectation to have. But if you're looking at something beyond that, well, you've got to get through this area here first, right? So let's say so 750, right? So 750, right, is where you'd have to actually let's keep that at 40. Let's say 45. Okay, so you'd have to get through that area, right, in order to move higher. So if I just want to use the word easier trade, or the trade that would make sense, right, is just a 1-to-1 sort of expectation. And hey, look, if we are going to move higher, right, to this area up here, that's 78.25, then hey, look, let's have the market clear this high, right, at 77.60, right? That's an area, and these prior highs, right? Let's have the market clear those areas, and but in the meantime, let's just take our 1-to-1, right? So that's 25 pips, $100, right? So this is where it becomes pretty handy, using the UFOs to help to define those entry and exit points, in particular for your stop, right, and help you kind of plan that trade. Set your expectations, and I think that's what we're really trying to do when we use these tools. Is to help us make an informed decision, right? And the same thing with auto climate, right? I mean, on the high time frame, it kind of gives us that clearer sense of what the overall climate is of the market, which is up, and so that focuses us on these long opportunities, versus the trying to go short here. So kind of stick, kind of that that common, I guess, principle that people, just talk about, just go with the trend. Let's not fight the trend, let's just go with the trend. And whether you use trend lines or moving averages or, auto climate, all of these tools, right, help you to just be very objective about, look, this is what it is, this is what it's showing us, and let's just stick with it, right? There's no room for interpretation in that sort of sense. Okay, so yeah, this is an opportunity which I think is at least on a short term, just for 25 pips is probably a one to consider, right? For where the markets are at this point, especially with this risk-on type of environment, and we can always expect, some sort of pullback, right, which is what we're seeing here. And so even if you are a, support and resistance, use that in your analysis as well, then you do have this retest, right, of prior resistance turn support, right, to help you also make your trading decision on this particular pair. Okay, now let's take a look at the other, let's say some other yen-based pairs, such as the the CAD yen, for example. So so is that something that would be a similar type of expectation, and so as you can see here, we're still above the 21-day moving average. We do have some pullback into this area here now. It's kind of already kind of reaching some prior resistance turn support, kind of moving lower. But where is the opportunity, to go long? It's a little lower down, so it's a little bit, kind of look at the distance between, the Aussie yen versus the CAD yen. You kind of see that, okay, there's a little, that similar sort of distance that it's going to have to take, right? And so this is where, again, we've got a couple of different options here. One is to, initiate an entry here, right? If we, go with the trend, right, we got to go long. But then there's also these other opportunities that the UFOs is highlighting to us, to where we can want to go long. And so, it's kind of doubled up there, and then just down here. Okay, so that's kind of that more of a encompassing type of area here. And then we have some resistance up the top here. I'm just going to color that a different color just so that it's a little clearer. And actually, maybe I'll just remove these other ones so that it's a little clearer. Right, so we do have this area here, and we also have this this red UFO kind of forming here. So so it will need to get through that area, right, in order to make its way higher. Okay, but again, if you look at the the auto climate on this, the stats are kind of again saying to us, hey, look, we've had 8 days of an upward sort of bias, right? Whereas on average, for upward moves, the statistics tell us, more like 4.6 days, right? So again, you get a mix of shorter up days versus longer up days, right? And that kind of averages out, right? So, but can we expect it to go more, right, than 8 days? Have we done that in the past? Yes, we have, right? Kind of see that here. Also see that here as well. But at least we get that sense, right? That, hey, look, we've had a number of days where it's gone up, and so we need to just be a little bit more cautious, around having an expectation for it to continue higher, right? So whether it be the Aussie yen and the CAD yen, and then the Swiss yen, right, which has also been pretty strong, right, on more of the Swiss sort of side of things. But here again, it's retesting prior highs. It's had it's kind of the original move lower, then one attempt here, kind of touch at this prior highs here. Another attempt back in November, and then finally now we've got this move into this area here, right? So are we going to see higher prices? Sure, I mean that's entirely possible, right? But we probably also need to expect some sort of pullback, right? So whether it be the CAD yen or the Aussie yen or the Swiss yen, right? It's probably been for all of them a good 8 days of an upward move, So maybe it is time for a bit of a pause, bit of a pullback before resuming, upward moves. But hey, maybe it is that we just, in particular for the Swiss yen, right? It's just going to be this oscillation, right? For however many times it's going to be, until it changes, right? But for the moment, given this broader perspective of things, it's not. It wouldn't be wrong to expect, a move to the downside here, right? So some sort of retracement. But is it also a fair analysis to expect a continuation of this? Yes, it can. It can move higher, right? It could be the Swiss wants to move things higher. It could be that the yen is just not going to be as strong, as we think, right? So maybe just this little pullback and then a continuation higher. Who knows? But what is the scenarios that we can, play out in our minds, right? To kind of plan and set our expectations for things. So if we go back to down here on the hourly, same thing as what we did for the CAD yen. It looks like there could be some opportunities here as well for an upward continuation. And so if we look at this area here, and kind of maybe potentially this area here, some sort of move to 116, what's that, 30, about there. Okay, 1630. All right, and let me just move these other ones so it's not confusing us. And then with the target up here. Okay, and so if you are kind of taking this first level, combining these two levels, then if we're going to go long here at this point, say if we just want to price it out with the stop maybe 6605. So again, a 25 pip risk and say 25 pip risk reward. Something in scenario risking $100 again. So this is also going to be 40,000. Okay, or 0.4. And let's see, how does that look here? So entirely, again, right? Very doable, right? Before we encounter any sort of resistance, a 1-to-1 is not a bad trade, right? Now, if you were looking at, say, 2-to-1, how does that work out? And so we're going to get 50 pips here. Then you're going to have price go a little bit into that deck of unfilled orders. So if we want to be a little bit more conservative, right, and kind of take it before we get into that resistance, then we're going to have to accept a little bit of a lower risk reward profile. Maybe a 1.6, 1.5 type of scenario here. So again, hey, look, if that's the opportunity, that's the opportunity, right? So what else do we have? So let's look at some other yen pairs. We did the Aussie yen, CAD yen, Swiss. Let's take a look at euro yen, right? So here we have been, again, let me just move this other area here. And let's just look at things from the bigger picture on the daily. So again, we're going to have that upward sort of bias, right, on the climate. And again, 8 days, right? We've been having this move higher. So so we're kind of running into these prior highs here, right? That's kind of why we were kind of had that area highlighted, right? But we do have this daily buy area. So again, prior resistance turn support here. So it's not, so to find some UFOs, some buy unfilled orders here is not going to be unreasonable, right? So if we want to, we can just highlight this daily area and then go lower to our 1 hour area. And so we see here, the UFOs are giving us a little bit more clarity, right, about where they are. Okay, and we can adjust our risk accordingly, right? So if we wanted to align to that daily buy area, then this is where we would need to look. But if we're looking for something a little closer, again, continuation of the trend, a little bit of a pullback, again, not trying to look for, big sort of numbers, right, in our risk and reward sort of profile, just looking at something a little, even 25 pips, right? I mean, it's not, it's not like we're looking for, 1,000 pips or anything. We're just looking at, 25 pips, which is good enough, right? So where does that put us? So we may need to maybe risk a little more, take that down to 60, maybe about 35 pips. Yeah, take that down there. Take that down, let's take it 35 pips, right? Okay, and again, risking $100. And just a one-to-one, so maybe 35 here. Okay, so if we round that to, let's see, what, maybe a little bit bigger than $100. Just a tad. And so where does that give us? That gives us nicely just before that area of resistance, okay, where that deck of sell UFOs is forming on the hourly. But hey, look, that's fine, right? It's not unreasonable to expect a little bit of a bounce there. Okay, and so that's the euro yen opportunity now. Now, if price does come back down here, then it's also a pretty good opportunity to get into, because that's also where a lot of folks using prior support, prior resistance turn support are going to be interested in getting into the market at as well. So that would be more closer to 125, right? So if you want to get a touch earlier, that's fine. Just make sure your stop is all the way down here, or it could be in the middle here, depending where how much. Let's kind of see what that risk is there. So let's say we want to get at 125, and you can put a lot of this ready ahead of time, right? So 124, or even that's 70, right? So we can risk 30 pips there. And again, if we just want to do a one-to-one, risk $100 and make $100, why not, right? So, and again, we can kind of round this out to, okay, we make it a little bit higher. 66 cents, I think I'm okay with 66 cents, risking an extra 66 cents there. So again, nice to be able to prepare for these things ahead of time, right? And so a lot of this is right, contingent, really kind of just going back to to what I was discussing earlier, right? I mean, this is an environment of risk on, right? We're probably due for a little bit of a pullback before maybe heading higher. You've got the Christmas rally kind of coming in when we're talking about equities, and if we kind of relate that to which are the pairs that tend to show us that kind of inverse relationship to risk on is going to be the yen, right? So that carry type trade, right? Except it's into riskier, high yielding type of assets such as the US market versus maybe the Japanese market, right? Or bonds, or some of those fixed income sort of products, which are at the moment in Japan giving negative interest, right? So there's no point, right, in putting your yen into the bank because you're losing money. So you might as well convert it into dollars or some other currency and invest in their stock markets or invest in their interest rate products, which may be giving a higher yield, even if it is very slight, given the overall global state of affairs when it comes to interest rates. A pullback, right, is not it's not going to be unusual, right, after such kind of moves in the equities, especially since the super lows that we experienced back in February, March, and a full recovery, basically a full recovery in all these major markets, regardless of whether it's, people say it's tech driven or what have you. I mean, the fact is that, hey, these markets kind of have fully recovered and made even new highs, right? So having a little pullback like this before continuing up is not unreasonable. And so, but again, it has been an extended move, which is what the auto climate on the daily has been telling us, right? We have had, these moves to the upside, which kind of goes beyond the average. And so we just want to be prepared, right, for a potential change in trend, or at least a pause in the overall move to the upside. And so again, looking at the yen pairs is it's probably a good time to look at it, right? Where we have a little bit of a strength in the yen, weakness in the equities. Just kind of give everybody a bit of a breather, and then resume that move up towards the end of the year for this kind of the Christmas rally. So just some things to just think about, right? As you're if you kind of new, right, to trading, then see these are some of the correlations, some of the idiosyncrasies or links to the various financial markets, right? Currency, how does that relate to the equities market? How does that relate to interest rates? How does and commonly, really, well, actually, in fact, forex is very related to interest rate products, because I mean that's really what forex is, right? It's a it's all about, hey, who's going to give me a higher yield, right? And it's all linked to the debt, the credit markets, or the debt markets. So coming back to these yen pairs, right? We can prepare a lot of this stuff ahead of time. And okay, so let's see what else. We've got pound yen. So what's going on here? So again, let me just go back to the daily. And so coming into, let me just make this less busy, and let's just focus on one area. rather than having so many. Okay, so we are coming in even on a dollar pound yen, right? Coming to an area where we've kind of revisited before. So there's a little bit of resistance here from prior attempts, and we haven't had any follow through, right? Even though we've had this up climate, it's kind of been a little bit tough for pound to get through here so far. And we see that there is some resistance here, right? So at various levels. So not just here and here, but also up the top here, right? So kind of the way to look at these are, hey, look, these are prior highs that need to be cleared out in order to get to those higher prices, right? Which the sellers, all the sellers, right? They want to sell at higher prices. So so that's why they're trying to push through, right? Trying to get this market pushed higher, and which is entirely possible, right? And so where do we see some buying opportunities here? It's probably a little lower, so it's kind of a double bottom here. So we're looking for a triple bottom, again, a sideways sort of pricing action that we've experienced here. But if you can kind of see, right, that distance between current price and an entry point, we're really not that far off, right? Really not that far off. So that's why it's to kind of focus on this immediate area is not a bad one. Okay, so again, we don't want to have too high expectations of risk reward. Hey, look, let me just get so what sort of risk is here? 138.90. 138.90. So it's a 30 pip risk. $100, right? And so we'll make this. It makes this 35. So kind of round that out a little bit. And again, hey, look, let's just do a 1-to-1, right? What is that going to give me, right? $100. Okay, fine, right? So can we do a 2-to-1 here? Yeah, sure, right? Not unreasonable, right? Not an unreasonable ask. Okay, an unreasonable ask here. So do 60 pips. Should be just get 5. Okay. All right, and even for that, it's very doable. Right, before we run into any sort of resistance, right? So that's pound yen, and let's see what else we've got here. New Zealand yen. So this one's a little trickier because New Zealand has been super strong, right? So kind of coming into here. In this one, we've got resistance that's a little bit too close here. So we really would be looking back down here. So for a bit of a pullback and then resumption of the uptrend. So here 30, and then that's 72. So again, 30 pip risk. Okay, make that 100. 30 for an entry at 72.30. 72. Yeah, 72.30. All right. Oops, let me change that. 250. Yeah, okay, cool. All right, so again, not unreasonable, right? Not an unreasonable expectation of where to take kind of profits, right? So so the only question, I mean, is do you want to be exposed to so much yen, right? Yen pairs. So that's I guess part of your own assessment of concentration risk, right? Something that you have to think about yourself, whether you want to do that or not. But yeah, this is kind of how we use, if you're new to the auto UFOs, this is how we use the auto UFOs to kind of identify those areas where there is concentration of buy orders on the long side, right? So the buy orders here and the sell orders up here, right? And so since we're going with the trend, the overall trend, we're just focused on the buy orders, right? If we had a downwards trend, we'd be just focused on the sell orders, right, where those sell order locations are. And hey, look, if you want to throw in, your Fibonacci's, right? Say you want to throw in your Fibonacci's, right? And you want to say, hey, look, I want to look at the, I'm interested in a shallow retracement around 38%. Hey, look, there you go, right? That's not a bad area, right? To be going long out that we identified, right? If you're a bit more conservative, you want to take a deeper retracement, then an area closer to 61, that's going to be down here, 70, 65, right? So very useful. Hang on, did I? Yep, that's all the way down here. Yep, that's right. So so you can use whatever you want, right? In terms of analyzing your trade, you can use support resistance, you can use, Fibonacci's, you can use moving averages, you can use a ton of different, indicators, right? Yeah, that's kind of, the opportunity, right? That's in front of you. That you need to assess, and then the auto climate helps you assess that climate on that high time frame. Is it a good thing to be focused on the buy side or the short side? And then the auto UFOs identify the location, right? That for where you expect a high concentration of buy orders or sell orders to be located, and then that helps you plan, your risk, where you're going to enter, where you're going to get stopped out, and also your target. So that's all we've been doing here, right? And we've been able to find, kind of in a similar area, right? But hey, look, you're bound to hit one, you just manage your risk, and if you're wrong, you're wrong. But at least you're able to plan out, right, and make a consistent decision, right, on how you want to play. In this case, the yen pairs, right, based on the view of equities being at these all-time highs and maybe having a little bit of a pullback before continuing up. Given that, hey, the Christmas rally, there's always some, positioning for year end that goes on, some window dressing that goes on, which may include, hey, look, maybe there is a little bit of selling that goes on, right? But is that, balance between selling and buying? What is that? Is it going to be more buying or selling than selling, or is it going to be more selling than buying? We'll see, right, over the next few weeks. But continued influence over all of this will be COVID, of course, as well as the US election. Everybody's convinced that Biden is the next president for the US. As we've seen in some recent videos from Trump, he's fighting back. He's not going down without a fight. So, but he's still kind of saying, "Hey, look, if they look at the stuff and if it's all above board, then hey, look, he'll accept uh, the status of Biden winning, right? Of Biden becoming the next president. So, so that's what he's saying. Is this his way of having a graceful exit for himself? Well, that's probably characteristic of Trump. He never wants to kind of be seen to be in a weak position. So even if he has to retreat, he wants to be seen as strong as he retreats, right? And come back to fight another day. So so maybe that's what we're seeing. We're going to see play out, but we will see. We will see. Okay, so that's all I have for today. Just focused on those yen pairs. Looking at the different opportunities there, but clearly the trend is still up, and so we still are focusing on the buy side, even though we're a bit extended. But because we're extended, we just look for lower risk and reward type of targets, right? So, all right. If there's if nobody's got any questions, then I'll let. We'll end off here. Again, if you are interested in finding out more about any of the technologies, these apps that I have here, Auto UFOs and Auto Climate, feel free to go to, let me just put it up there one last time, Trade with UFOs, oops, there we are, Trade with UFOs /Andrew, and sign up for free membership, and yeah, we'll catch you next week. All right, find us on YouTube. Okay. All right, take care. Thanks again.